All right, we're actually going to start this segment the exact same way we started the last segment, since I may or may not have screwed things up here. So we got this email from Shelby, not Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com, although he is sitting here 6 feet away from me. Hello, Shelby. But from a different Shelby who wrote in for a question for Shelby. And I said, oh, I can handle this. And then I started to go down the rabbit hole, and I go, I should have saved this for Shelby. Okay, so you're a landlord.
Yeah.
How many rental properties do you have? Just in California, how many? Do you know?
Over 40 doors for sure.
Because you got to deal with the different state laws for like rent controls in every state where you're in.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's what this guy's writing about. Or gal. Shelby could be either. Says, my friend has been renting a house from an older couple for about 6 years, and everything's been great. The landlord stopped by the house yesterday and asked them to sign a year lease with a rent increase from $2,400 to $2,800 to start on May 1st. I thought that rental increases cannot exceed 10% of the current rent, and they had to give 90 days notice. So I started going down the rabbit hole, and there's like these various things where it depends on if the rental unit is subject to local rent control or AB 1462. But what's your general understanding of where this person's friend is at?
That's exactly what it is. So it depends exactly what like jurisdiction that individual property is. So not only the county, but also is it downtown Sacramento? Is it in the city? Is it a multi-unit property? Is it a single family residence? How long has the tenant been in their lease currently? Because there's different laws if they've only been in there for 1 year versus 3 years. So you really have to understand the actual code.
Yeah, there's a lot missing in there because the way it was implied to me was this is the first time the landlord's ever even asked him to sign a lease.
Yeah.
Well, then, and I mentioned if this is also the first time he's ever raised your rent, you've been living pretty good for 6 years.
Yeah.
But then you get, it's the way I looked at it was nobody wants to get screwed over, but we all kind of do that. You can't do that, and sometimes you have to step back and really evaluate everything before you tell your friends, "You're take them to court. Call the real estate board." That kind of thing. Okay. By the way, we were talking before we went on the air. And I didn't realize you were talking about businesses, but obviously you're a Lake Tahoe guy. You've got properties there as well. And there's snow. Have you been up to Tahoe at all?
I have. It's insane.
And I was just checking while you and Dawn were bantering back and forth. The extended forecast for South Lake Tahoe is snow off and on through the end of the month.
Yeah. It hasn't stopped at all. And these businesses are caving in. So you had two of the Rayleighs. The roof just completely collapsed. Whoa. And they don't have very many, grocery stores in Tahoe in general. But even their CVS, the roof collapsed. So it's really not a good situation up there right now.
How about supplies getting there?
Yeah.
I mean, because at some point, I know truckers learn to drive in this, but at some point these roads have been closed, right? Or like impossible to get there. And I would imagine walking into stores and not being able to find a lot. I don't know. I'm just kind of making this up in my head of what I think's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, eventually, it does it's so isolated that it can be hard to get to for days at a time.
Absolutely. Do you remember back when the Tahoe Keys flooded in South Lake Tahoe? It was like in the 80s.
Right before we got there.
It's a big concern right now because the snow actually creates these banks. So when we have these like tropical storms and it rains, it floods, and all of the snowbanks just create these dams, and it just floods everything. So that's a major concern right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you seen any of the lake rising at all lately? Because I know you have property right on the lakes.
Yeah. Where the property is that I own, it's actually frozen.
Oh,
so we saw Emerald Bay actually freeze, which was super cool.
So this is what you're referring to, though, becomes a concern when things start to heat up and all this snow melts and goes right into the Keys or more.
That's exactly right.
Wonderful. So it's not over.
Yeah, back when I used to drive trucks and I had a route up in the Tahoe area, I'm fortunate to miss the snow, so I feel for those drivers that got to drive up here because, man, putting on chains. And then we used to deliver to the Safeway and early in the morning, and man,
heroin. It's just heroin.
Dina was telling me, and this was new to me. The rest of you might go, duh. How heavy were those chains? The snow chains?
They were like 25 pounds. And
per tire?
Yeah, per tire. So like on a box truck, a 26-footer, you put 2. But on the 18-wheeler, sometimes you'll put like 4 on there. On the drivers, and then the trailer sometimes, depending on the condition of it. If it's really bad, they want you to put on
Okay.
Wow.
Now, Shelby, I know you're super excited to talk about the Dream for All loan program. This is California specific, right?
Yes.
And it's capped. There's a limit to it. But it's a way to attack something that you've been talking about every time you come on in terms of the down payment. How does this all work, and how do people get qualified, and what's the deadline and all that other crap?
Yeah, so it comes out March 27th, so we don't have all of the official guidelines for the program. But what I would recommend is you really want to get educated on this as soon as possible. So I'm going to be doing a webinar on this. If you follow me on Instagram, it's just my name, Shelby Elias. And I'll be putting out a lot of information on this webinar. But this essentially gives a first-time homebuyer 20% down, okay? Which is going to drastically reduce your monthly payment. I mean, this might reduce the monthly payment by over $1,000 a month.
Whoa.
So it literally will give you enough money to avoid monthly mortgage insurance. It is a loan, but they're not going to be charging you interest on that loan. But it's an equity shared program. So it's kind of crazy how this thing works. They're going to give you 20% for your down payment. You live in the home. When you go to refinance or sell it, you owe them that 20% back, okay? So you do have to pay it back. Then you owe them 20% of the equity gain. So you're essentially partnering with the state of California on this home. And when you sell, whatever you make in equity, you owe them 20% of that as well.
So if you made $100,000, $20,000 of it goes to California, plus
Correct.
you have to pay back
The 20%
the
down.
20% down.
Yep.
But you're still going to walk away with tens of thousands of dollars, and you had a home.
Yeah.
For however long it was.
Can they give you up to 20%, or can you get a lower percentage given to you as well?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know why you wouldn't take all of it, but it can also go towards other things too. Like it can go to pay your closing costs and things like that. So not only are they giving you 20% for the down payment, but you can use that for your closing costs and essentially bring in no money at all.
So you have to be a first-time home buyer. Is there an income stack or where it's like, well, if you're making more than this, no go?
Yeah, there is, but there are some loopholes, and that's why it's beneficial to work with somebody that understands what's going on.
So let me ask you this: we got this email from Levi, knowing you were coming on. He said, "Is there such a thing as being able to get a loan with very little to nothing down? My girlfriend and I both have credit scores around 750. We've been employed for several years. We make about $100,000 a year between the two of us, but we have not been able to save money. Is this the kind of thing this guy should be looking at?"
Yeah, that would be phenomenal for them.
And is the first step then to contact you to get this process started, get them in the line? Because this thing's going to go right away.
It's going to go, yes. This is the best one that I've ever seen. I've never seen anything this good. So 20% down, it's awesome. Take advantage of it.
Do you have a schedule? Do you know when you're doing the webinar?
I'm probably going to be doing the webinar at the end of next week, but I will start pushing that out and sending out emails and advertising it on my Instagram.
It'll be on Instagram, Shelby Elias, Elias.
So with the 20% down, can it go towards like repairs that need to be done on the property?
No, it can't. But, you can negotiate another credit that could go for repairs. So you negotiate that from the seller.
We got all our first-time home buyers are all perked up by this news.
So when they give you the 20% down, if you're still a first-time home buyer, can you only use 3% of that cash and put it down as the deposit and still save the other 17% for other things?
No. It has to go towards, Yep.
Okay.
So follow him on Instagram. You better already. And then watch his webinar next week.
Now, do you know any other type of requirements, like as far as credit score, income, anything like that?
We don't know what the exact credit score is, but, I would assume that it's probably going to be between 640 and 680.
And you mentioned the income, there's ways around it, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, there is. So, you don't have to include both spouses' income. You can include one spouse, qualify on one spouse. You also don't need to include maybe your, bonus income or, other types of income. We can qualify based on your base income. So instead of using your overtime or, commissions or whatever, there is ways to qualify without having to include that income.
The program launches March 27th, but they should follow you and call you right away to get in your line.
Yes.
Because this is kind of, it's not the same thing at all, but it's kind of sort of like the PPP thing. It's like first come, first serve, and when the money's gone, it's gone.
That's exactly
So
right.
you need to be okay. So there's the good news. Now the big news. I'm tired of getting these emails. Depositors of the Silicon Valley Bank will have access to all of their money. It was announced at no this bothers me. At no loss to American taxpayers, the Treasury Department, Federal Reserve, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation said in a joint statement on Sunday. Well, we all get hit eventually in some way or another. My understanding is the money's coming out of the fees that the banks pay into the FDIC fund, which means eventually the banks are going to charge all of us. But the good news is these guys, these customers, are not going to lose their funds. And that's not really what most people are concerned about. They're concerned about, is this 2008 all over again? Is this the beginning? Because there's actually 3 banks, this is just the biggest one, that have had some type of crash bailout problem. Economist Stephen Moore, who is a conservative Republican, full disclosure, said that Silicon Valley Bank's collapse is the tip of the iceberg for the whole financial system, and blames the spending caused by the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates that will lead to financial problems for many major banks. Hedge fund boss Bill Ackman says the economy will not function unless the president immediately guarantees all deposits right now, and says the crisis is going to hit the big 4 banks. Is it that bad? Or are these guys nuts?
The thing about this is that nobody actually knows, because what happened here is you take a bank like Silicon Valley Bank, okay? They were taking in deposits from tech companies. So companies like Uber and maybe Airbnb, these companies would go public. They'd get a huge influx of cash, and then they'd take that cash and put it into Silicon Valley Bank, and they would invest with them, right? And what ends up happening is Silicon Valley Bank now has all of these funds that they need to deploy out. So then they went and they deployed the cash to make a return on investment, and they only held maybe 10% of the actual deposits that they had, which was totally legal. That's how the system is designed. But then when you have crazy hikes in interest rates, so high, so fast, you have the tech companies that are not evaluated the same as they were back then, and you have businesses that are struggling, so they're taking out a lot of the money that they have. So what happened with this bank here is once they started to get cracked, they needed cash, and they started selling off some of their positions to get more cash. Well, then that spooked all the investors, and they said, oh my gosh, why are you selling at a really bad time? There must be something wrong. I'm going to get my cash. And then it just caused this run on the bank. So it could potentially happen to more and more banks. It's just a sign of where the economy is. And, we've talked about that for quite a while, but it leads you to believe, like, where is my money safe, right? It's like, do I put it in the stock market? Do I put it in banks? Like, what do I do? And, not to just, say this because it sounds cliche, but real estate is a lot safer than most other investments. Because this is the home.
This isn't, so far as we know, this isn't like 2008, in that 2008 was tied directly to real estate and all those subprime loans. It's a whole different animal.
Totally different animal.
And while everything would be affected, if this runs downhill, this isn't the exact opposite example of where real estate might be the place to be.
Yeah.
So one question that a lot of people have asked is, everything you just described, people are going, how does all that happen? Well, I thought we put all these safeguards into place after 2008. I thought this was the whole Dodd-Frank bill of 2010 to where they're keeping an eye on the banks. Is it because of the crossover with the tech companies?
Yeah, there's multiple sectors here. It's like they're dealing with inflation. They're dealing with the tech companies being overevaluated, and now they're not, overevaluated. They're starting to come down on their evaluations. You're looking at the earnings of a lot of these companies. It's just everything encapsulated in one, and the high interest rates is really what's putting the cap on that and hurting everybody the most. So
you also had an interesting note I saw in an email exchange where you think maybe this is about crypto as well.
I hate even mentioning crypto because I have these scammers that keep mimicking my Facebook page. So if you're listening, I do not have more than one profile, and I'm not trying to get you to invest in crypto with me. But yeah, crypto's gone up a ton recently because people are feeling like it's safer to put their money in crypto than in the banks.
Jeez. All right, we got a few emails here because what is the housing market like now? And this is usually a pretty rough time of the year when things are normal.
Yeah.
Although we head into spring and people start thinking into school, maybe we're going to leave. And then, of course, we got all the economy. What's the housing market like? As I see houses on the market like for weeks and weeks and weeks on end.
So here's where the market is right now. It's shockingly stable. It's not going down, but it is stable because there's low inventory. So you really do want to make sure that when you're buying a home, you're looking for a home that you can add value to. You don't want to buy the home that's completely remodeled, ready to go, looks the best that it possibly can, is selling for top dollar. You want to buy the house that you can go into and you can continue to reinvest into, and it produces a great investment. That's always going to protect you because you're building sweat equity as you go. Where you can put yourself in a bad spot is if you buy the house for top dollar and there is no equity left because the previous owner took it all because they remodeled the house. And now you're in a spot to where, hey, if it goes down, then, I'm in a bad spot. But like we mentioned before, right now, that is your best investment. If you have your money parked in real estate, you have a tangible asset there that's always going to be there.
Phone number is 888-989-9811. We're talking to Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com. You can email us rad@radradio.com. Hello, Aaron. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you. My question is kind of two-pronged on that first-time homebuyer program. A, what qualifies as a first-time homebuyer? Is it similar to what Shelby's talked about before with the 3% down, and then every few years you can actually re-qualify as a first-time homebuyer? And then B, what is the effect on the capital gains taxes with that 20% the state provides?
Yeah, you shocked a lot of people a while ago when you mentioned, actually, you can have owned homes before and you're still a first-time home buyer. So let's start with that. Does that still work here?
Yeah, if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, then you're considered a first-time home buyer.
Dang.
I know.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Okay. What about his capital gains question? So you sell a house, you make, let's use the numbers are easy. You make $100,000 in equity. Now we have to give 20% to the state because if you're in California, you got to pay back the 20% you got as well. Well, now you're walking away with $60,000 or whatever that math is. Now, usually what people do is they just reinvest it so they don't have to pay capital gains. But if they didn't.
So you would only pay capital gains on a property that you, if you're not rebuying, another primary. If you lived in the house 2 out of the last 5 years, and depending upon how much that you make, you could exceed that gain amount. But traditionally, you're not paying capital gains on that unless you turned it into an investment property and then you sold it as an investment property. But any of the gain amount that you would have to pay back to CalAFA, you're not going to be taxed on that amount.
So no surprise, you perked up a lot of people with this Dream for All loan program, which starts March 27th, but you're going to want to get in contact with Shelby right away because it's capped in terms of how much money. Melissa wrote in, says, does Shelby know if the 20% down payment loan program would exclude keeping it as a rental later on? We're first-time home buyers, but we would eventually want to keep it as a rental property. That's a smart question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that strategy. I don't think that there is any cap on that. So you can keep the home and it is going to be due. So if you never refinance and you never sell the home, at the end of your loan term in 30 years, you would be required to pay this back. But yeah, I always think I never come across clients that are saying, man, I'm sure glad I sold that house. It's always the opposite. It's like, why did I sell this? I should have never sold. So
that's great,
try
though.
to keep as many as you can.
Like, if you don't do any of that, like you said, you rent it out or you just keep it and stay in it, you don't have to pay any of that back till 30 years.
Right?
I mean, that's
yeah.
amazing.
30 years, it's going to be worth
Yeah.
But you also mentioned refinancing. So could you use the Dream for All Act as a way to get the 20% of your down payment and the closing costs, and then you're living in the house 5 years from now, interest rates are down low again, you refinance, and at that point you pay back California and you're done, and now you own the thing, move it forward, and you can do her plan and just rent it in perpetuity.
Yep.
And when you sell it again,
Yeah.
you don't pay anybody anything. Is that right?
Correct.
Because on the refinance is where you're paying them the 20%.
Yes. But you have to have enough funds on the refinance to qualify. So you have to pay them back and still have enough equity to qualify for the refi.
Hello, Amanda. Go ahead.
Hi. So my husband and I came into quite the large chunk of money this year, and so I was trying to figure out, what's the best way? Should I buy one property? Should I buy multiple properties? Would this program help us out, as far as acquiring multiple properties?
Yeah. I love that question because a lot of the times people kind of make this mistake of putting all the money down that they have to buy one home. And how you really build wealth in real estate is you want to think of real estate in a 10-year chunk. You're never investing in real estate thinking, okay, I'm going to try to make a bunch of money right now. It's in 10 years, 10-year chunks, okay? So if you were to purchase one home, now you're only gaining appreciation on one home. So I would recommend putting the minimum down to buy as many properties as you possibly can. Analyze the numbers, make sure that you can cash flow and it all makes sense. But now when you see that equity bump or you see that rate increase on rental units, right, you're going to hit it. It usually comes somewhere in between a 10-year span. Now rents increase. Now your cash flow goes through the roof. Now your appreciation hits. Now you're making appreciation on 4 houses instead of 1. So you see these crazy bumps. And I would definitely recommend taking advantage of this house here or this program, get the 20% down, move into that house, live in that house, then buy maybe another investment property. And then instead of putting down another 20% for an investment property, move out of this house that you got the free 20%, put 5% down as another primary, and keep moving into new primary residences and only putting 5% down instead of 20. It'll allow you to buy more properties.
And I love the way she's thinking, too. She's got this lump sum of money, and she's still like, how can I take advantage of this program?
Yeah.
Now, would the fact that lump sum exists, that won't necessarily disqualify her because of the way that you'll be able to get her approved based on income, rather?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just signed my new rent lease agreement for the next year, and I'm tired of paying somebody else's mortgage. Every time you come on, Shelby, I'm thinking, man, I should be taking advantage of all these programs as a first-time home buyer. And this Dream for All Act, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's right up my alley. But so if I were to qualify, do I have to have a house ready to buy right now, or can I look towards the end of my lease so I don't have to break my rental agreement to move into a house?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So the funds are going to dry up. So in a perfect world, what you do is you would learn about the program, contact me immediately, get yourself ready, and then when it releases, find a house, lock it up, get in it. You can't lock down your spot in this program without a house that you're in escrow on. But what I would always do, no matter if you're renting or not, because a lot of people hinder their own success by thinking, well, I'm locked into a lease agreement. That doesn't matter. They're giving you 20% down. So if you find a good enough deal and this program works for you, you could always maybe pay 2 months of rent and break your lease. There's a way to get out of your lease, and you just need to analyze the benefit, and I can help you do that.
And there's no shortage of people wanting to rent places. That landlord's going to find a renter pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question about the Dream program. Obviously, it's a loan. They give you 20%, so you obviously have to have a credit score for that. Now, do you get a hard pull on your credit when you get approved for that? And then if you need to be approved for another loan to pay off the rest of your house, how does your credit score be affected with the 2 loans?
So your credit score is affected in a few different ways. So you have a different pull on your credit for a mortgage versus a car versus a credit card, okay? So the credit bureau knows, for one, when you're shopping for a mortgage, you can get your credit pulled multiple times without having it affected.
Oh, seriously?
So people are always very concerned with that. And it's like, no, the credit bureau knows that you're not out trying to rack up credit cards. They know that this is for a mortgage transaction. So don't worry about that. But again, with us, I'm approved with multiple banks. I run your credit one time, and I can shop with that same credit report with multiple banks to find you the best deal.
That before I forget, you've never met, I've mentioned my sister-in-law to you in Arizona, and you've never met her, but you have literally changed a lot of plans they had for them in a very good way that is also helping with their retirement plans. And I get so excited every time I hear you talk, because also their son, my nephew, he's going to be 20. And because of you, because my sister-in-law, that's her son, watch him. He watches your stuff. He listens to what you say. He's researched things like, this is the path. He is, it's like this passion now that he's having, and for him to start so young, to want to buy, rent it out, buy something else, rent it out. Like,
yeah.
I can't wait to see where he's at when he's 40, with all of this.
Yeah.
And
This is all from watching Shelby on Instagram?
Yeah, honestly. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Brian, go ahead.
Hey, so my wife and I are first-time home buyers, and right now we feel like we've been trying to do a lot of the correct steps, and we have $50,000 cash saved in our account. We both make combined a little over 100,000, and it seems like even at the moment, I mean, we actually even I listen to you on Instagram and listen to you come on the radio and everything too as well, and we've gone through a couple of your guys, and even with all the hacks right now, it seems like for a $500,000 house, even with that $50,000 down, we're still paying $4,500 a month, $5,000 a month just for that house payment, and our credit scores are 700 to 750, and it just seems like even with all the hacks currently, it seems like we're stuck in the moment. Is this kind of? Do you think this new dream hack might help us with something less than a $4,000 or $5,000 a month payment? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the thing that we have going on right now is you have high interest rates and you still have high prices. So it kind of stinks because on one side you're like, well, I don't want housing prices to come down, right? Nobody wants housing prices to fall unless you don't own a home, But on the other side, and even if they were falling, then you'd argue, say, well, shoot, I don't want to buy now because they're falling, right? So it is tough. But here's what I can say about this program specifically. They're giving you 20% down, which is a massive down payment, right? I mean, we're talking about like $100,000 down on a typical home. So they're giving you a lot of money down. That's going to drastically reduce your monthly payment. And you avoid monthly mortgage insurance because you're only paying monthly mortgage insurance if you're putting less than 20% down. So now that's going to save you even more money. So yes, this program is going to allow you to buy a house with a much lower monthly payment.
Tony, go ahead.
Hi, Shelby, Tony, and I'm a brand new agent. I've got a million questions. I'm actually going to be calling you later today to talk to you about a few things. But my question right now is, will that program work for if I'm looking to invest into a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex? Can I still use that program for an investment property if I also plan on living in that investment property for that first year?
I'll have to check the guidelines to be truthful. I haven't checked into it to see if it works for multifamily properties. I would assume that it does. But yeah, I'm very excited to connect with you. If there's any real estate agents out there that want to learn more about this program, I would love to connect with you and your clients and help you get pre-approved and learn more about this program. So any real estate agents, hit me up.
We're talking to Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com. Follow him on Instagram. His last name is Elias. He'll be doing a webinar on this Dream for All loan program, which has captivated everybody's attention this morning. Hello, Joan.
Joanne. Hi, I'm curious. I'm living in my grandmother's house who passed away, and my dad's executor of her trust, and he's willing to sell us the house for approximately $100,000 less than it's worth. Would, instead of borrowing just the $365,000 that we would need to buy the house from him, even though we're getting equity already when we purchase the house, would that 20% down payment be applicable to us? I mean, would we be able to use that to get in on our $365,000 purchase price? If we have $100,000 in equity locking in?
Yeah, I think it depends on how the vesting is on title. But as long as you're not on title and you're actually purchasing the home, then yeah, I think that would work.
Hi there, Willie. What's up?
Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could help anybody in Texas.
Can you help anyone in Texas?
I do have referrals for people that are outside of California, yeah. So give me a call and I'll help you out.
Hello there, Troy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey.
Morning.
I was just curious. I have two sons that live out of state, and I've been trying to get them to move back here. Is there a certain length of residency to qualify for that?
For the Dream for All loan program?
No.
That's a good question.
If you want to live in California, come on back.
Because this is the state. They want you to move back to California.
Yeah.
They're not like,
quit leaving.
Hello, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yes, I just tuned in, and a Dream for All deal, does that apply for Reno, Nevada?
It's California state only.
Yeah.
And hopefully other states may or may not find a way to do this. 'Cause do you know what is the backdrop of what California as a state? Because there's a lot of news about California. Their surplus is dwindling, but they had this big surplus as a state. What is the impetus behind this? Is it to genuinely recognize it's goddamn hard to buy a
That's
home?
exactly what it is. Yeah, it's to support moderate to low income homeowners and give them the opportunity to buy at an affordable price.
That's a good thing.
Abby
I'm surprised.
says, does the DREAM program work for property without a home built yet?
No.
House has to be ready to be
you
moved
can't
into.
Just buy land and build a house. Yeah.
All right. It's the Dream for All loan program. You can follow Shelby online or on Instagram at Shelby Elias, Elias. Webinar coming up within a week or so.
Yeah.
Call him right away if you're eligible for this or you want to find out if you want to get in line. Anything else you want to mention?
No.
Thanks for being here, man. People are just thrilled about this. All right.
Right on.